The world can be a dangerous place. Gear up with the industry's original and most trusted laser sighting system from Crimson Trace. Equipping your firearm with laser and light systems will enhance your effectiveness and help keep you and your family out of harm's way. Call 800-442-2406 or visit crimsontrace.com and receive a free copy of our new laser training video, The Laser's Edge. Crimson Trace.
This week, Gun Talk kicks off the new year by reviewing the tumultuous events of 2013, and we visit with top prognosticators about what's in store for the next 12 months. We'll look at a registration scheme in Connecticut, which has gun owners lining up on the street in what reminds some of 1939 Germany. Plus, there's a movement underway for gun owners to proudly proclaim themselves as gun criminals. What's that about? New guns and gun companies popping up too. All that, and you can talk to Tom on the air. 866-TALK-GUN. Call now and lock and load.
Hello and welcome to Gun Talk Radio. And right now, at this very moment in time, you're scratching your head and you're saying, what happened to Tom's voice? That does not sound like Tom Gresham. Well, it's because it's not. It is me, Paul Markel, and I'm sitting in for Tom. Now, like most of you this winter, Tom got himself a little bit of a cold and got a little bit of laryngitis, and his voice is not really feeling up to it right now. But fear not, I will be with you. Tom is actually in the studio with me right now, and he's giving me notes. He's got a little bit of a yardstick, so if I go long, he's just going to poke me with that yardstick, so I'll stop talking and let somebody else talk. But we want to welcome you guys out there to a new year and a new year of Gun Talk, and you can believe that there's going to be a lot of material. You know, it's funny. I've been writing and I've been doing material for radio and television for a while now. And I had somebody ask me here, they said, how are you going to do a weekly show about guns? Won't you eventually run out of stuff to talk about? Well, folks, I don't see us running out of stuff to talk about anytime in the near future. There's so much. As a matter of fact, let me give you a quick background. You're like, all right, who is this Paul Markel guy, and why should I spend 3 hours this week listening to him? Well, Paul Markel became a United States Marine in 1987, served my nation both overseas and locally. I became a police officer after that and served some time with several municipal departments in Ohio. I've been a professional bodyguard. I've been writing professionally as an outdoor shooting sports writer for about 20 plus years now. And about 3 years ago, I started a venture called Student of the Gun. Now, I have a television show called Student of the Gun TV, and you can watch it on Dish Network or in your local cable company, or you can go to studentofthegun.com and watch it there. And we also have a podcast radio program. Now, if you are a fan of Gun Talk and you're an avid listener, you may have heard my voice before, because Tom every once in a while calls me on the phone and says, hey, Paul, let's talk about this week. And so we do. But I want you guys to know that be gentle with me. Please be gentle with me. It's the first time actually guest hosting Gun Talk Radio. And I'm glad to be here. I'm happy for the opportunity. Now, on the phone with us right now, and he's getting ready to talk about what's going on in the year 2014, what we can look forward to in the fight for our Second Amendment. And, you know, people talk about Second Amendment, but I'm kind of fond of that whole Bill of Rights thing, that whole constitutional thing. Now, I'm going to bring him on. His name is David Codrea, and he's written an article recently for Guns Magazine, and he's going to talk about it. David, are you here with me?
Paul, it's great to finally talk to you. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I'm in the Louisiana bunker here with Tom, and we're having a good day.
All right. Well, I'm up here in northeastern Ohio, so I think I'm probably a bit colder than you guys are down there. But anyway, we got the fireplace going on, and yeah, let's talk.
All right. Well, you in the show notes here, I've got a little bit about your recent article that you wrote at gunsmagazine.com and talked about the Bloomberg issue. I know that that's kind of like nails on a chalkboard to anybody who is a true Second Amendment person. Quite frankly, if you're a patriot and you love this nation, you hear that, and it's the nails on the chalkboard sound. Tell me about what does Nanny Bloomberg have for us?
Well, Bloomberg has all kinds of things in store for us. I've talked about him many times before in Guns Magazine as well as the Gun Rights Examiner column. My most recent Guns Magazine column, where I'm their field editor and do their Rights Watch column, is actually about what's going on in Connecticut. But I think what Tom was referring to in the show notes is the fact that Bloomberg has been quietly setting up what he calls action groups, which are registered lobbying groups with the secretaries of state in the various states. He was doing that throughout last year. I reported on it in July, and I reported on the update on his progress with that again in December. And what you have going on there is you have a guy now who's been freed from the mayor's office. The guy is a billionaire. The guy has a vengeance against guns. And what he's going to do is he is going to be coming at us in 2014 with a vengeance. The head of his organization, a guy by the name of Markel, who runs Mayors Against Illegal Guns as a figurehead and advertising guy, has said, well, we've seen him stick his toe in the water. Now in 2014, once he's been released, we're going to see the whole foot, which prompted my colleague Kurt Hoffman, who writes the St. Louis Gun Rights Examiner column, to wonder what kind of boot that foot is going to be wearing. And I think what we're going to see is a renewed need for people in the states, particularly what happened in Connecticut, what happened in Colorado. People need to get involved. It's not enough just to even be a member of just the NRA and think that everybody else is going to handle it for you. You need to be involved at your state-level group.
Well, and you bring up a fantastic point, and I think if you're out there in the listening audience right now and you're saying to yourself, okay, Bloomberg's got billions with a B. How can I fight somebody? I'm lucky to make my mortgage every week. How can I fight somebody with billions? And we saw a crack in the Bloomberg armor in Colorado. And if you didn't catch it, and David, I'm sure you probably caught it, but during the first two recall, the one for Angela Giron and for John Morse, they took a whole bunch of Bloomberg money. I think he outspent the recall group like 7-1 to try and keep those guys in there. Well, what happened with Hudak? When it came time for Hudak, Hickenlooper went public, which was really crazy. But he went public and said, we in Colorado like to solve our own problems, and we don't want outside interference from people like Mr. Bloomberg, and thank you very much, but we don't need your help. Now, whether or not they were getting money in the back door, we don't know that, but the fact is, they realized after the Morse and Giron debacle that having Bloomberg publicly supporting their cause in Colorado, it didn't help. And I think that is a victory. It may be a small victory, and a lot of people are like, well, it's just Colorado, it's just a Senate seat. Well, they figured it out. They at very least figured out that they didn't want Bloomberg to be publicly supporting Evie Hudak, because that was a non-starter for them. And so that is a weakness, and the question is can we exploit that?
Well, I think that what we see with Bloomberg is every time that we win with grassroots support. The other side is what's called AstroTurf. They have benefactors. They have, the Joyce Foundation. They have Michael Bloomberg. They have grants, and they have, a friendly media on their side to make up for it. Where we win every time is with grassroots support. And my contention is, Paul, that we're already stretched to the limits, particularly the state gun rights groups are stretched to the limits at this point because, as you know from working with volunteer organizations and things like that, it's always a small percentage of people that do all the work, and everybody else, if they're even a member. Part of the standing in line in front of Connecticut, in front of the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, talk about an Orwellian name. But part of that, one of the guys from the gun rights groups went out and basically he found that only 3 or 4 of the people that he talked to out of those hundreds of people had ever even heard of his group. Okay? This level of apathy, we can no longer afford to sustain it, because whether or not Hickenlooper is going to be making political points and saying back off in this instance or not, The fact of the matter is the guy has established professional lobbying groups that are going to be directed from Bloomberg Command Central, and it's going to be in every state, and he's going to be looking for whatever he can, because with him it's personal, it's an ego thing, I would submit it's a megalomania type thing, but regardless of what his motivation is, the guy is committed and he has the money. The only way we can beat him is on the field with grassroots troops, and that's why people need to get involved. Imagine what would happen had in Connecticut the state gun rights groups had 10 times the membership. Well, I submit they ought to have 100 times the membership.
David, we're going to hold you over. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we will be right back with David Codrea.
It's great to make something with your own hands. When you reload, the whole family can get involved, including breaking more targets and bagging more birds. Mech reloaders have been the center of family activities for generations. Plus, you can save money and stock up, even when there's nothing in the stores. 10, 12, 16, 20, 28, and 410. Any gauge. Get started reloading. Visit mechreloaders.com. That's MECreloaders.com.
The Ruger LC380 is the perfect pairing of the award-winning LC9 pistol and the popular .380 auto cartridge. The LC380 is the same size as the LC9, yet offers reduced recoil, making it Ruger's lightest recoiling personal protection pistol yet. It features a dovetailed high-visibility 3-dot sight system, 7-round magazine and finger grip extension floor plate, manual safety, and loaded chamber indicator. The Ruger LC380, another rugged, reliable firearm from Ruger.
The .45 Auto, also known as the 1911, is the standard other defensive pistols are measured against. No matter what pistol you carry, techniques developed around the 1911 are vital. You know you need training, and you know your concealed carry class definitely was not training. Now Gun Talk presents an exciting DVD, Fighting with the 1911 with Tiger McKee. Tiger's unique training style will have you drawing, moving, shooting, and running your gun better, no matter what style pistol you prefer. At ShopGunTalk.com, you can order our DVDs of Tiger's instruction. ShopGunTalk.com also has a 2-DVD set, including Concealed Carry 1. Get both for the information you know you need. This really is life and death. ShopGunTalk.com has DVDs, books, and other essential gear. ShopGunTalk.com. That's ShopGunTalk.com.
A great trigger can make you a better shooter. For over 60 years, Timney triggers have been trusted by hunters and shooters everywhere. Timney triggers are proudly made in the USA and come with a lifetime warranty. Installation is easy. Give yourself the Timney Trigger advantage. To see more and order online, go to timneytriggers.com. That's TIMNEY triggers.com.
Who is this Tom Gresham, and what's with all the gun stuff? Check out our FAQs at guntalk.com or email us your question or concern to tom@guntalk.com. Now, back to Gun Talk.
Well, speaking of Timney Triggers, we want to remind you guys that this week starts the giveaway. That's right, the special Timney Triggers giveaway contest. And if you want to learn more about that, go to guntalk.com/win. And Timney, in combination with Gun Talk, is going to give away all kinds of first prizes and grand prizes. So you want to check that out. And we also want to thank our winner, Steve S., who was part of the Mossberg MVP Patrol Rifle contest. It wasn't a concert, but it could be. You could be making music with that gun. But Steve is from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where they make really, really big guns. But he's going to have himself a Mossberg MVP patrol rifle just for going to guntalk.com/win. Now, if you want to join the conversation, don't forget, it's 866-825-5486 or 1-TOM Talk Gun. If you want to talk to us today, just jump on the phones and we'll see what you have to say. Now, we're right back here with David Codrea. We're talking about His Majesty, Michael Bloomberg, and how His Majesty does not like that you have guns, does not like that the peasants possess firearms, and he's going to do everything he can to make sure that the peasants no longer have them. Now, David, what can the people in the listening audience, they're sitting out there in Nebraska and Iowa and wherever they happen to be on planet Earth, and they said, well, what can I do where I'm at? Suggestions?
I'm glad you brought that up, because that depends on, there's no one-size-fits-all solution to any of this, okay? I don't believe in that. I think that people are going to feel passion for that which interests them, so they have to figure out what their niche in all of this is. Every year around this time, I write a resolutions column, and basically I say I will do something every day to promote the Second Amendment. What will I do? Well, it depends on what your talents are. Maybe your talents are writing letters to the editor. Maybe your talents are, bringing new people into shooting so that we can swell our ranks. I mean, if you think about it, there's 100 things. Paul, you started out the hour saying, people say, well, don't you run out of things to talk about and write about? No. I think if you're like me, you'll find the problem is cutting out that which you don't have time to address because there's so much. And I think that if people think along those lines, they'll have no problem. But at a minimum, I believe you have to be an active member, not just a member, but an active member of a national group, whether that's NRA or Gun Owners of America or Second Amendment Foundation, which is doing landmark work with lawsuits. You have to be a member of at least one of those, preferably more. At the state level, you have to find out what your state group options are, and you have to become involved with that. You have to keep your eye on the ball, because they're going to be coming at us from all directions, from all levels of government, and if you're not doing that, I submit that you're not carrying your share of the load, and what that results in is situations like Colorado or situations like Connecticut, where all of a sudden we find out that gun owners are waking up and saying, my goodness, I have to stand in a line now if I'm not going to be a felon, and I have to endure this, and or I have to engage in civil disobedience and put myself and my family at risk to have my life destroyed by, a vengeful government. And this gets into the whole civil disobedience aspect of things.
Well, you're absolutely right that every person out there listening, some of you guys are like, well, I'm not a public speaker. Okay, fantastic. You're not a public speaker. Can you write? Can you speak English? Can you write English? What are your strengths? Time for some self-examination. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, what can I possibly do? Are you a webmaster? Could you help? Let's face it, a lot of these sites, were built by, it looks like they were built by a seventh grader, or they were built and they haven't been touched in 5-10 years. Are you a webmaster? Can you help people? And don't overlook the power of the internet and the fact that we can communicate with each other every day, 24 hours a day. Is there something that you can do? And the whole, well, I'm a gun owner is not good enough. Owning a piece of property, owning an object does not make you an advocate for that object. And I kind of hate that word advocate, but I just used it. People are like, well, I'm a gun owner. Okay, congratulations, you're a gun owner. I'm a car owner. That doesn't make me a motor vehicle advocate. What are you doing personally? And if the answer is nothing, well, you need to be intellectually honest with yourself and say, well, that it must not be that important to me. Let's face it. You say, oh, I own a gun. Okay. Congratulations, you took the first step. You own an object. You possess an object. But you know what? Dianne Feinstein once claimed ownership of a gun. Nanny Bloomberg, his bodyguards own guns. Does that mean that they're going to be out there supporting you in your fight for the Second Amendment? You tell me. So owning a gun is just the first step. Now, folks, we appreciate you being with us. David, I appreciate you being with us. We're coming towards the bottom of the hour. Now, before I let you go, before we go to our hard break at the bottom, what I want to ask you, is there any other points that you'd like to make to the audience this week? Or, words of encouragement, because let's face it, we talk a lot about depressing things. And we don't always want to get down. We want to encourage each other. That's why Tom is here every single week. That's why I do my show. I want to encourage you that you are, as an American citizen, you're supposed to be the boss. You're not supposed to be subservient. You're not supposed to be a peasant. You're supposed to be a boss. But guess what? The other edge of that sword is when you're the boss, you got to make the hard decisions. It's easy not to. So, David, before we let you go, are there any other things you want to tell them?
Just basically, there's all kinds of ways that we can get involved. Paul, I've sat outside of gun stores recruiting members, to come into gun rights organizations and things like that. That required no special talent except my body being there with some forms and being able to talk to people and say, hi, how are you? Here's a real simple one people can do right now without even having to think about it. You're listening to this program. How come this program isn't a Sunday morning television show on a national network? Well, aside from the fact that they hate our guts, but the bottom line is tell your friends about this. Bring your friends into it. And if they can't listen Sunday when it's live, tell them about the podcast that Tom puts up afterwards. Get involved with this stuff because you're hearing stuff on programs like this that you're not going to hear on any network, including Fox News.
Absolutely. You're correct. And we want to let you know that after we do our bottom of the hour break, what we're going to have Rich Burgess, and he's the president of Connecticut Carry, and he's going to be here and he's going to talk to us about what's going on right now in or at Ground Zero in Connecticut I suppose it's the frozen Ground Zero up there in Connecticut. But David, we really appreciate you being here for talking to us this week. And now, can we? Do we have time to squeeze in a quick call? We've got Phil calling from New Mexico. Yeah, let's go ahead and squeeze it in. Phil, are you there from New Mexico?
Yes, I am. Thanks for taking my call.
What's on your mind, Phil?
I just wanted to talk just for a minute about what you guys were just discussing about doing something. And, we can all do some things. A lot of people kind of feel intimidated by trying to build a website or maybe even trying to contact people that we don't normally communicate with, like our congressman and whatnot. But I think one of the best things we can do is just kind of talk to our neighbors. Exactly.
Don't be ashamed to be proud of your nation. Don't be ashamed of your freedom. You're not supposed to be ashamed. Now, Phil, we're coming up at the end of a hard break here, and I appreciate you getting on the phones and calling us and talking with us today. And everybody out there, as we continue throughout this 3 hours, if you've got something you want to say, you want something you want to get in on, don't forget you can call 1-TOM-TALK-GUN and you can join the conversation, and we will be back.
Have you taken your family, friends, and kids shooting lately? You're listening to Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, and we'll be right back. Want to be a guest on the show? Drop us a line at info@guntalk.com. You're listening to Gun Talk with Tom Gresham.
And we are back, and I am still Paul Markel, host of Student of the Gun, and I'm sitting in for Tom with the laryngitis this week, so we appreciate you being kind and joining us, and for perking up your ears, because it is a new year, and it's just killing Tom that it is a brand new year, and there's so much stuff to talk about, and all he can do is whisper. It's killing him, folks, and I know you appreciate it. You're out there, and you're probably you're gonna get a UPS order of chicken soup from all their fans out there. They're going to be sending you chicken soup and make your throat feel better. And we hope that Tom's throat feels better, because you guys, if you're gun nuts, if you're gun people, if you're firearms industry dudes, you know what is coming up. The big shooting, hunting, and outdoor trade show in Las Vegas, the SHOT Show, is coming up in only 1 week. A week from right now, all of us will be there. The big family. The big family will be in Las Vegas. Now, part of our extended family is a gentleman named Rich Burgess, and he is the president of Connecticut Carry up there in the frozen tundra of New England right now. And if you haven't been paying attention to what's been going on lately, and don't expect stories like this to get national news attention. Don't expect, if you're, I guess step number one, if you're still getting your news from MSNBC or CNN or one of the three-letter channels, I don't expect to get any gun news, because if it doesn't fit, unless it's guns are bad and you shouldn't have them. That's pretty much that template. Now, I know The Blaze broke this story here early this week. The Blaze talked about it, and they had photographs and so forth. But basically, you've got, right before the first of the year, you had Connecticut citizens, lawful gun owners, not felons, not rapists, not pedophiles, but lawful gun owners standing in line to register their lawfully owned and lawfully purchased property. And ask yourself this: if you have to register something, if you have to seek permission of the government to possess that item, is that item yours? Is it your property? I don't know. You tell me. What do you think? Now, Rich, are you there?
I'm here, Paul. Thank you for having me.
All right, Rich. Well, I kind of set you up there, and what I want you to do is go ahead and tell people out there in the listening audience who may not be aware of what's going on up in Little Connecticut, up there in the corner of New England. Tell them what is going on with lawful gun owners in Connecticut.
Well, back in April 4th, they passed a law under emergency certification, very much like New York did. Before that, thousands of people had turned out to the Capitol to try to protest any new laws. Most people don't really know about that. I mean, Connecticut residents turned out in droves to try to help this situation and try to make their voices known. And what we ended up with was all the bills that were on the table got scrapped, and the governor pushed through his own bill that didn't get voted. Well, it got voted on by the representatives and the senators, but there was no public hearing process or anything else. And that's very alarming. I mean, the fact that they can just push anything through without any kind of public thought.
If my memory served me, this was one of those dark of the night. It's so important. This bill is so important that we can't even talk about it. We can't even debate it. We just need to vote on it immediately.
Right. Nobody can read the bill. We didn't have a chance to read the bill. It was essentially, here's 130 plus pages, and we're just going to push that through with a vote. And,
it seems to be,
the people voting on it haven't had a chance to read it. I don't understand how that's even possible.
It seems to be a trend in the United States of America today that we have what's put forth as a, quote, good idea. We're not going to take the time to read it. We'll pass it. Which one of our vaunted representatives said that, well, in order to read the bill and understand what it's in it, we're going to have to go ahead and pass it first. And then, really? Is that how it's supposed to work in a representative republic? Well, I know that's antiquated thinking, and you need to get with the modern times. So we've got people in Connecticut. We've got lawful gun owners lining up by the hundreds. Now, the lines are gone now. Is that correct? Is there an amnesty after the first?
Right. The lines are gone. There has been no amnesty declared. Certainly we would encourage that, except, I don't know what kind of good it's going to do, because they didn't reach most of the people. The state puts all this effort and money into campaigning for, see something, say something, all these programs to lock people up, click it or ticket, drunk and over the limit driving and stuff like that. But they put no energy or money into actually getting out there and promoting what they passed. And so basically they just made everybody a felon overnight, and the people who registered are the only ones who are going to be able to get away from that with a defense.
So it's kind of one of those, it's incumbent upon the citizen to research the new law to find out whether or not they're still within it. And let's say that you don't watch the news, that you deliberately stay away from the news because, quite frankly, it's most of the time depressing, and the rest of the time it's propaganda. So here you are living your life as, a lawful citizen. You have your whole entire life, and turns out that the local constabulary shows up and finds out that you have an unregistered AR-15 rifle. Now you're a de facto criminal.
And this happens all the time, even now. Connecticut had an assault weapons ban for since 1994, approximately. And the assault weapons ban has caught many people in their in its grasp. What happened now, though, is they added to that and made it way more complex. So now no real normal human being can read through these laws and figure them out. We've actually been vocal proponents of education on this, but at the same time, we've also been pointing out that municipal and state agencies can't even interpret these laws. A good example is one of the commissioner's opinions. He's completely wrong, but now essentially it's law.
Yeah, and how many times have we seen that in the past where and I was a police officer for 17 years, and I've been there, I've done that, and where you have law enforcement officers, and this scares me, this like wakes me up with cold sweats, that we have law enforcement officers in the United States of America that are, basically they're either enforcing laws that don't exist, or they don't understand the current laws. We just had a situation in Colorado where law enforcement officers arrested a gentleman, jailed him for open carrying a handgun in public, told him he was breaking the law. Well, the judge heard the case, threw the case out, and he was awarded a civil award because it was an unlawful arrest. And the thing that bothers me the most about that is not that, Johnny Patrolman that's been on the street for maybe 9 months comes up, okay, although he should know. But there were sergeants there. There were supervisors there. You're telling me that out of all these people that not one person knew the law? How is it that... It
happens all the time in Connecticut.
Yeah, you have officers that are supposed to be, and, to throw them a bone. When I was in the police academy, I went through the academy, we did 40 hours of Ohio revised code law. Everything, and you get out, and as time goes by, the Congress, the state Senate, they amend the laws, they change the laws, they rescind the laws, and what we would have to do is go through in-service training. Say, okay, this year, this is what's changed. This is no longer against the law. This is a misdemeanor now. This used to be a felony, so forth, and you have to go through all of this. Now, my question is, is this not even important anymore? Is it just are we really falling into the England trap? You are guilty until you prove yourself innocent. Now, we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we're going to come back. Can you stay on the line with us?
Absolutely, as long as you know.
All right. We're going to come back after our break, and we're going to talk more with Rich from Connecticut Carry. Stick with us.
When your front door gets kicked in, the gun in the bedroom may be too far away. A wall safe from Console Vault keeps your gun secure and out of sight, but ready. Visit CONSOLEvault.com.
Since 1997, Access Sights have been helping good guys take care of bad situations. The industry leader in gunfighter sights for pistols, shotguns, and rifles, Access Sights are the upgraded solution to your defensive firearms. Learn more about Access Sights and purchase them at AccessSights.com. You can also order your new gun with Access Sights already installed from companies such as Smith & Wesson, Ruger, Remington, Mossberg, and Marlin. If you need a gun, you need Access Sights.
From day's first light till night's last glimmer, your satisfaction is our responsibility. On the range or in the field of duty, you can rely on Brownell's lifetime guaranteed gun parts, tools, and supplies. Anytime, any place. It's how we've done business since 1939. Brownell's.
The XDM 3.8 Compact from Springfield Armory is 2 guns in 1. Use as your concealed carry gun with a compact magazine and use the extended magazine for home defense. Carry 13 rounds of 9mm in the compact magazine and a whopping 19 rounds in the extended magazine. To see the entire family of Springfield Armory XDM pistols, go to SpringfieldArmory.com. That's SpringfieldArmory.com.
You're headed somewhere your gun can't go. Leave it in the truck? Unsecured? Nope. Get a vehicle vault. Fits most trucks and SUVs. Installs in 10 minutes. Plate steel. Fast access. Visit CONSOLEvault.com.
If Gun Talk is ever preempted by a sporting event on your local station, you can download the current show or any show on our website. Log on to guntalk.com and click listen. Now, more Gun Talk.
Hey, and we are back. I am Paul Markel. I've got a question for you, and it relates to that bump right there. If Gun Talk is ever preempted by a sporting event, A, that is wrong and that should never happen. But if it does, how many of you guys out there are very well schooled, or you know your buddies at work or your relatives, they know everything about the current fantasy picks, but they have no idea what's going on in Connecticut. They have no idea what's going on in California. You know, in California, you got to register long guns now, too. They have no idea what's going on in New York. They have no idea how their rights are being eroded and taken away from them every single day, but they can tell you all about their fantasy picks. And folks, if that applies to you, look in the mirror and ask yourself whether or not you're wrong. Now, we've still got Rich on the line, Rich Burgess. He's the president of Connecticut Carry. Now, all right, we talked about the fact that the lines are gone now. The lines are gone if you have not registered not only your guns, but it's also magazines that hold more than, is it 10 rounds?
Correct.
So
you're now a felon.
If you still possess that, you are a de facto felon according to the state of Connecticut. Now, you guys are a state, not a commonwealth, right?
I guess that depends on who you ask, but yes, a state is.
You could be a people's republic. So
exactly.
Right now, if you are in possession, and let's just say that you're one of these Rip Van Winkle guys, and you just woke up and it's 2014 and it's January, and you're like, oh, I got to hot foot it down to the commissar and beg for permission to register my gun. So you walk into the station with your AR-15 and a satchel full of magazines. What happens to you today?
Well, first of all, there's the commissar, as it would be the Department of Public Safety in Middletown. So they have that building locked down, and that would probably get you shot walking in. But really, at this point, your opportunities are either you can be a criminal and just keep it in your house, which, you know, we're not encouraging people not to do. Certainly we like law-abiding people, but, you know, there's something to be said for disobeying unlawful laws. However, there's also the opportunity to transfer it out of state or to sell it out of state or to an FFL, or one of the options on the table is to surrender to the police department, but that can result in charges, so I would be very careful about that.
Right. It's akin to the well-intentioned people from Tennessee that go up to visit New York, and they walk into the Empire State Building, and there's a sign that says no guns allowed. So the lady goes to the guy. She says, hey, where can I check my gun? And he says, you are under arrest. Congratulations. So basically,
I wouldn't recommend it here.
Yeah, and exactly. And I just got my buddy Jim on the other end sent me a note. He said, with what's going on in the United States of America right now, every time there is a, quote, suspect at large, the new trend, and this should scare your pants off. If you're wearing pants, if you're wearing a kilt, it should scare your kilt off. That right now the trend is, there's a suspect at large. We're going to go warrantless house to house. Now, my question, being a police officer, and I graduated first in my academy class, thank you very much. We learned about this whole Bill of Rights thing. We actually went through each one in detail. And that fourth one, where they explained to us as young little police officers that, you know, you cannot just stop a person for driving on a public highway. Being on a public highway is not an instance where you can stop them. So where do we lose the Fourth Amendment, where if there's a suspect at large, you can just go into people's homes, and if you go into someone's home in Connecticut and you see something black leaning up against the wall, do you arrest them without a warrant? Now, Rich, we're coming up against the hard break here. And we want to thank you for joining us. Now, give everybody your website and tell them how they can find out real quick.
Well, we're Connecticut Carry. My name's Rich Burgess. I'm the president. There's a website called CT Carry, as in ConnecticutCarry.com.
All right. If you're up there in Connecticut, check them out. And if you want to get in on the show, dial 1-TOM-TALK-GUN, and we will be right back.
You don't have to agree with Tom to participate in the show. Call now with any of your concerns about guns, gun rights, or particular firearms, or suggestions for your shooting activity or personal protection. 1-866-825-5486. Gun Talk is coming right back.
All right, welcome back to Gun Talk Radio, and we would like to thank all of our guests. We got some fantastic guests still lined up for you for the next 2 hours, and we're going to take a call now. We got Steve, who's on line 3, and he wants to talk about powder availability.
Yeah,
Steve, are you there? Hey, thanks for calling today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, how you doing? I was just wondering if you have any insight, or maybe some of the listening audience, if they're having a problem, have any insight. Around my area, I cannot buy for love or money Alliant powders, and everybody says I can't get it and everything like that. And the only rumor I've heard going around is that catch this one, somebody's buying, somebody mysterious, I guess, is buying up all the nitroglycerin, so they don't have any nitroglycerin to make their powders. Well, I can get other powders, Hogston and all the rest. So I'm curious.
You want Alliant, so it's probably a pretty popular powder. And what are you reloading with your Alliant powder?
308 and several different pistols. I'm using Power Pistol, Bullseye, Reloader 15, Unique, several different powders.
Well, I know when I talked to guys 4 or 5 years ago about the upcoming ammo crunch, and these guys told me, I'm not even worried about it because I reload. So I will always have everything I need to make ammunition. You guys keep buying it. I make my own. And I believe what you're seeing in the powder area is the same thing we're seeing in .22 ammo and what we saw this last year in 5.56, 9mm, and what have you. And I would ask you, and I'm sure you know friends, how many guys you know that may have gone through 1 can of powder a year were buying cases of it, or we're buying 3 or 4 cans in a shot, or what have you. Same thing with ammunition. Now, like I said, I've known a lot of guys who have been reloaders, and they've always felt like, I will never be out because I've got all my stuff.
Not anymore.
And I know my local gun shop, they have some powder on hand right now. But, last year, in the height of it, they didn't have a grain of loose powder in that shop, because the moment someone walked in and saw it, wasn't like years ago where you're like, well, if I ever need it, I'll go ahead and pick it up. When people see it, even if they don't think that they need it at the moment, they're buying it. And that's what we're getting with the .22 ammo. People are still mad about .22 ammo. And I'll ask them, I'll say, well, if you went to Walmart today or your local gun shop and they had .22 on the shelf, what would you do? Well, I'd buy it. So would you, so would your neighbor, so would everybody else. And I would venture to say that almost everyone who is a gun guy has a .22. So, I mean, even if you don't have a 44 mag, even if you don't have a 270, even if you don't have a 308, how many gun people that are legitimate gun people do you know that don't have a .22? It's the gateway drug for gun people, the .22. Now, what I would say is, fortunately, unless they get all ginned up in D.C. and start talking crazy again, things are starting to mellow out. I've been doing the informal surveys. I go to Academy Outdoors, I go to my local guys, I go to Walmart to see what's on the shelves. And the encouraging thing for me in my local area, because I'm down south, is like at Academy, you can find everything, and they've taken away the purchase limits. They used to only let you buy 1 box at a time, a 9 or 45 or what have you. Now, I know it doesn't help you because you're sitting there and you don't have the Alliant powder, but what I can tell you is that unless we get another scare, unless we get another, unless we get Feinstein on the floor of the House saying we need to ban, powder, it should come back online. Now, Steve, we appreciate you calling the show today, for being out there, for listening, and for calling Paul Markel. Now, guys, if you guys want to get involved just like Steve just did, you can call 866-825-5486, and we will be back.
No black helicopters here, just the facts about gun rights and gun ownership. This is Gun Talk.